Yeah, the very first image is me taking a slug of beer. Uh, Good afternoon, America. I'm going to try to take a little different tone this afternoon. No different message, a little different tone. I'm continuing where I left off yesterday, backing up on a little bit of it. Yesterday we talked about how ridiculous and rude some MAGA people are, and the hypocrisy that they'll call you out on being rude, and they will call you out, well, they'll call you out on anything you say, but they don't necessarily look at their own people's words. I find that rather hypocritical, but that's just me, I guess. I want to talk about Ann Coulter just a little bit more, because I want to talk about it from a little different perspective. After the fact, she took down her post. Now, getting back into why this became such a thing yesterday was because I had posted about how rude and obnoxious that was. And it is rude and obnoxious. And I had somebody point out to me that somehow it's because I will refer to the OSS as the OSS that I'm the rude one. Well, okay, you can point that out if you want to, but one, I would never in a million years call out somebody's kid for getting excited for their father. I don't care if it's a 5-year-old or a 17-year-old, for getting excited for their father, crying and saying, "That's my dad," because they're so proud. I would never, ever, certainly call that kid weird. I would aspire to be that dad. And yet Ann Coulter felt the need to point that out. And then she found out that Gus is a special kid. That Gus is autistic. And so she took down her post. She took down her post and said, "I posted that before I knew he was autistic." Problem one. What the hell difference does it make? Hello, Florida. Good to see you. What difference does it make that you didn't know that he was autistic? Why would you call out somebody's kid like that and say that, and her statement was, talk about weird. That's not weird. A kid crying and being excited about his dad being on stage, being nominated as the Vice President of the United States, being that proud, that ain't weird, people. That ain't weird at all. I don't care if it is an autistic child. In fact, that has nothing to do with it. Hello, John Cass. Good to see you, too. But moving on from that, she said that, oh, it's because the Democrats call us weird. Well, I'm sorry. I look at the behaviors and I can't help it. You guys on the MAGA side get a little fucking weird. Have you looked at the tailgate parties? Have you looked at, and by tailgate parties I mean the rallies, have you looked at what the OSS draws? And then they take shots at what we had at the convention, and some of the shots were taken at the celebrities that were there. We had Stevie Wonder. We had Oprah Winfrey. and a bunch of others. We had Lil Jon. You guys had Kid Rock and Hulk Hogan. You may not think that's weird, but a good swath of America does. But all of this coming down now, and all of the backlash she's getting, people, they're being apologists for her to a degree. I had somebody today from back in my home state point out that, oh, well, she took the post down and apologized. Did anybody find an apology anywhere? I didn't. I looked, and I looked close. I did not find an apology. I found the post many places. She can take it down all she wants. The internet is forever. But I didn't find an apology. But even if she had, it would ring absolutely hollow. And I pointed that out to him. I said, you know, you're saying that, well, at least she took it down and apologized. Well, she didn't apologize. However, let's turn that around just a little bit. When in 2017, at the inauguration, there were a couple of Democrats that made comments regarding the orange shit-stained son, Barron. And there was an uproar, a demand that they all get fired, and some of them did. There were a few, and they got fired. There was an uproar from the MAGA world, from the Republicans, as well as the Democrats. We put the uproar out there as well, because it's still fucking wrong. But now, well, she apologized. So we give her a pass for that? I don't think so. Sorry, folks. One of the things that was pointed out from my live yesterday is that I'm delusional. Well, I'm sorry. Believing that she should get a pass for that, or being an apologist for that, is delusional and weird. Also, yesterday in the live, there were comments after comments about Mike Lindell being taken down. And I hadn't seen it. And I finally watched the video before I even finished replying to comments. I went out and watched the video to see what the hell I was talking about. Remember that thing I do research? I looked at the video. And Mike Lindell intentionally engaged a 12-year-old in this goofy fucking outfit disguise where he, and you can't make this shit up. We all know Mike Lindell is in a world of shit. And he deserves to be in a world of shit. Sued to the point of he's never going to recover from that, and those judgments aren't going to be overturned. He really did do that shit. But that's MAGA for you. We can say anything we want. Oh, wait a minute. We're going to be held responsible for that? Hold it, hold it, hold it. No, you're going to be held responsible for that. Which he was in court of law. Exactly as he should have been. So he went in disguise. His idea of a disguise was, yes he did, Jane, was to shave off his mustache, put on a hat, and a pair of sunglasses. That was his disguise. Mike Lindell has got a very distinctive voice. Many people can be identified by their speech patterns and their voice. I'm probably one of those people. I have a rather distinctive voice. and rather distinctive speech patterns. Certainly Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, there are a bunch of them, and the orange shit stain. You can tell who they are just by hearing them. So, he goes into the DNC in disguise, and obviously, it didn't work. Because he decided that he was going to go at a kid that was there. 12-year-old kid. Problem is, he picked the wrong kid. He picked a kid who does his own podcast and does his own research and actually knows what's going on, has the receipts, and has the ability to talk about it, which is quite commendable. I mean, that's commendable for anybody. For a 12-year-old, that's remarkable. But this was, I guess it's another example of Mike Lindell's poor choices. But Mike Lindell decided to take on this kid. I don't think he knew who it was. The internet, he has quite a following. The internet probably knew, but he took on this 12-year-old kid and started rattling shit off as if the whole world knows what's inside his brain in whatever way it swirls around, and we're all supposed to just follow. He starts rattling it off, trying to basically overrun the kid, and the kid just asked him direct questions. He said, well, no, that's not true. Well, what about all of the court cases that you lost? What about the fact that it was judges that the orange shit stain? He didn't say that. My word, because I'm not going to say his name. What about the judges that the orange shit stain appointed? And Mike Lindell just kept going on and on and on, trying to run over this kid. And the kid just, you could tell on his face that, like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. And he brought up all of the failed lawsuits. So he obviously knew who he was talking to, which I'm not surprised if Mike Lindell walked up to me and started talking. I don't give a shit if he's wearing a horse head mask over him. I'd know who it was. The kid knew who he was talking to. So he brought up all of the lawsuits. Mike Lindell persisted, kept pushing. Finally, the kid starts to walk away, and Lindell tries throwing one more piece at him, and he just stops, and he turns around and says, how's your bankruptcy going? And sorry, guys. If you're going to take on a 12-year-old kid and not admit that he's beaten you, that's delusional and weird. Oh, well. And, you know, I get called out for being rude or delusional. I'm sorry, people, and I'm not sorry to the followers of the OSS. I'm just not. I am going to stand against him, no matter what. Tough shit. Look, if you want to vote for him, go ahead and vote for him. If you don't want to listen to what I have to say, then stay the fuck off my pages. Scroll the fuck on. I'm not forcing you to listen. I'm not forcing you to watch. If you don't like that, go away. It's that simple. Go away. I'll talk a little bit later about that and how I intend to deal with it. Yeah, that was a beautiful one. So your source is trust me, bro? That was beautiful. All right, you're full of crap. Kid's right. The definition of delusional, however, characterized by or holding false beliefs or judgments about external reality that are held despite incontrovertible evidence to the contrary, typically as a symptom of a mental condition. You can call me that if you want to. You can say that, but your source is trust me, bro. Let's copy the 12-year-old. That's a good comeback to that one. Your source is trust me, bro. You know, if I have to look at things, I have to look at 34 felony convictions and still think that you're the party of law and order. That's delusional. That's utterly delusional. I have to look at a failed presidency that did nothing outside of, oh, you had it a little more comfortable. Well, he came in on a relatively robust economy. And some things got better. The president has something to do with that. Not a lot. And the things he did didn't work. Tariffs and things like that. That doesn't work. That just passes the cost on to us. And to sit there and talk about, oh, the prices are so much higher now, without ever once looking at corporate profits, go back to the description I just gave there. That's delusional, people. And by the way, it's kind of weird. Now they want to use another thing. They're trying to somehow negate, well, there are a couple of ways of trying this, negate Kamala Harris's candidacy by using the Dred Scott decision to make Kamala Harris ineligible. If you don't know what the Dred Scott decision is, you need to look it up. It was the decision by the Supreme Court that said because, now we had already had, if you're born on American soil, well, not exactly that way. We already had it that if you're born in America, you are a citizen. Not completely. But in the Dred Scott decision, they decided that the children of slaves, even though they weren't born, even though they were born here, their parents were technically not citizens because they were slaves. That was the Dred Scott decision. So first of all, to use that decision against Kamala Harris, if you don't see how racist that is, you're, wow. They're trying to use this because, according to the Dred Scott decision, her parents weren't citizens, even though she was born here. Her parents weren't citizens yet. So thereby, she's not a citizen, according to the Dred Scott decision. Did you ever read the 13th and 14th Amendment? I mean, the 14th and 15th Amendment? Did you ever read them? They pretty much say one thing very, very clearly. All persons born in the United States are citizens. All persons. Sorry, and that is not a Supreme Court decision. I hate to tell you this, Supreme Court, especially this one. Your decisions, when there is a constitutional amendment that is counter to them, automatically they are negated. So the Constitution says you're wrong. She is a U.S. citizen. All persons born in the United States are citizens. How much more do you need to know than that? If you can't see that and you're going to try to do this through this backward-ass, slavery-driven SCOTUS ruling way back when, that's delusional. Again, go back to the description of delusional. And to do it with that much racist intent, that's not only delusional, that's weird. Oh well, that's who you were, that's who they were. Dred Scott was a SCOTUS decision saying that slaves are not citizens, neither are their offspring. Tell me how that's not racist. Tell me how holding on to that isn't delusional. That's it. They want the orange shit stain in there, and they'll do anything to get him. And that's my problem with a lot of it. It isn't really Republicans. Unfortunately, the Republican Party has been absconded by the orange shit stain. but there are still very good Republicans out there that I respect a great deal. Going on from there, the latest one was in the last 2 days. The orange shit stain says, what gives her the right to run? The same thing that gives you the right to run, you dumb shit. You're a citizen. You can run for president. You're over 34 years old. You are a citizen. That being the case, you can run. We don't even have rules against you being a convicted felon. You can still run. But what gives her the right to run? And what they're talking about is she never got any votes. All right, let's think about that one too. Yes, she did. When we held primaries, they were for the Biden-Harris ticket. What happens when the president resigns, steps aside, dies? The vice president takes over. Joe Biden stepped aside and endorsed Kamala Harris, his vice president, the person who he should have endorsed. That's what gives her the right to run. That's how it works. If you don't see that, if you hang on to that claim, you're delusional. And the fact that it is so apparent and you can't see it makes you weird. That's not my fault. That's your fault. I didn't make you delusional and weird. You did. Personal choice. Take that one a little bit further, though. Just because he says a thing, the cult parrots it. Now, I would ask you, how many times did you hear Kamala Harris or Tim Walz talk about the Dred Scott decision? How many times did you hear about my take on why she has the absolute right to run? I don't imagine you have. These are things that just swirled around in my, I guess, delusional brain. But I don't just take what anybody says and simply parrot it. However, many of the people calling me delusional and weird, if you look at the things that they state, they're just things that Donnie said or Donnie's followers said. Never mind the personal attacks, the way he's acting or destroying the chances that they're going to win this. You still parrot what he says. You still go to one of the tailgate parties for the orange shit stain. And when he asks, should I not be personal? Should I be personal? After all of his advisors have told him, stay on policy, stay on script. Of course, the crowd, because it's nothing but a weird tailgate party, tells him this is what you should do. And he, jokingly, I'm sure, said, well, there you go. My advisors, you're fired. This is a guy that takes a thrill in firing people, by the way. Following that, listening to him, parroting him, that's delusional. And it's weird. Not my fault. You're the ones doing it. One of his other ones that just came up. And he's trying to say that Kamala Harris is copying him. Oh no, there's a huge difference. He was in Las Vegas touting his plan to not have taxes on tips. Okay, that's a good thing. You shouldn't have taxes on tips. These are pretty much, they're called a gratuity for a reason. Another word, look it up. They shouldn't be taxed. I don't care if that's the bulk of that person's income. It's the bulk of that person's income because the wage that they're paid when they are people that receive tips, you can't call that a subsistence wage. But he says don't tax the tips. And says that it has stolen that from him. There's a big difference. He still supports the sub-minimum wage that people that earn from tips receive. He still supports that. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, will raise the minimum wage across the board and also eliminate the tax on tips. That's a huge difference. If you can't see that, if you don't have the mental fortitude to see that, that falls once again into the realm of delusional. And if you support it that way, you're weird. That's just human rights, human dignity. So that's my part 2 of the, yeah, but I'm rude. I want to go on to that in particular thing, though. I'm going to be, and I'm not going to be blocking most of them, but I am going to be unfriending some people. Some people who just absolutely have they just can't seem to scroll away. They just can't seem to stay off my pages. They just have to go and look and then comment, not on my pages, but they go off on their own and in a very veiled way. It's so thinly veiled, it's not even funny. It's like the racism of MAGA. Say that I'm delusional. Well, okay, that's your opinion. You have a right to your opinion. But I have a right to have you stay the fuck away from my opinion, especially after I've asked you to please understand that I am very opinionated when it comes to these matters. And if you're of the other side, you're not going to like my opinions. I don't mind sitting down and having a discussion. I don't mind having an intelligent intercourse with another person. Not at all. But if you're just going to throw barbs out, well, first of all, that's rude. But secondarily, as I see these, it leaves me no choice. Now, by unfriending them, I mean on Facebook. I consider these people my friends, even the ones who choose to attack me. I don't understand their motivation for that, but okay, you know that I'm too harsh. You know that I'm an asshole. You know that I'm obnoxious. These were things you knew when we became friends, but okay, now because this is a very heated political time and you happen to have other opinions than I do, somehow that knowledge of me just falls to the wayside. So for the sake of friendships, for the sake of having that stop, I am going to be unfriending some people. I just don't have a choice. I'm going to do it. It's not, my being here has never been to force my opinion onto you. It is to express my opinion. Nothing more than that. I can't force my opinion onto you any more than I can make you feel anything. I don't make you feel, you make you feel. If you don't understand that, you're delusional. Again, flying in the face of incontrovertible evidence. But neither here nor there. It's not to force my opinion. I appreciate that and likely will be angered. These people see my opinion and they don't appreciate it, and it drives them to anger. And that's not always the case. Sometimes, Blue Dots, I'm going to tell you, sometimes it's you. It's the way you attack. But how many of you have had me slap you back down when it's happened like that? Pointing out to you, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. You're saying these things about that person and they're not necessarily true. I know that because they're my friend. So, we aren't innocent either. And I don't claim to be. I think I just called myself an obnoxious asshole just a couple of minutes ago. But point is, I'm going to have to do that, and we'll just have to see how it goes. We'll find out after the election, I'm sure. I want to just see right here if that's all there is. Yep. Yeah. Well, I do hope, yeah, I see what you're talking about there, Martha. I do hope that he gets sentenced next month, because he really should be an indicted, convicted, and sentenced felon. That's not to sway the election. It's the fact that he was arrested for it should have swayed the election. But if it has to go that much further, I agree. All right, that's what I got. I love you, America. Try not to be delusional. Try not to be weird. I can't guarantee you that I'm not. I can only guarantee you that I am going to continue to express my opinion. I love you. Share this shit.